Hello everyone and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Bold and the Beautiful, B&B, spoilers for the week of November 3rd to 7th suggest that Liam Spencer, Scott Clifton and Hope Logan, Annika Noel, will face a daughter difficulty, resulting in a marriage setback for Sheila Sharp, Kimberlyn Brown. Beth Spencer, Jordan Gracie, is clearly ecstatic about Hope and Liam's wedding. B&B fans are aware that Beth will be serving as the officiant, so she is determined to ensure that the wedding runs smoothly. Beth believes this will be the nicest day ever, and she doesn't want Sheila upsetting the mood or threatening to make controversy. Beth will complain to her parents about Sheila and admit that she does not want Deacon Sharp, Sean Cannon, to show up with his wife. Beth seemed to like Grandpa Deacon's company, so she may be alright with his attending alone. Sheila will be the problem, so Hope may inform Deacon on the situation and say she agrees with Beth on some way. Hope may go over the list of Sheila's mistakes and admit that they don't want to upset Beth on such a great day. Deacon may agree to notify Sheila that she is not invited, but this could lead to further friction between them. Sheila may believe that Deacon isn't sticking up for her or that he is embarrassed to be married to her at this moment. Deacon assured Sheila that he was not ready to give up on their marriage, but she may begin to question whether he is truly invested in this reunion. Deacon will be distracted when it comes to fixing things with Sheila since he can't take his mind off Taylor Hayes, Rebecca Budig, and their relationship. Will Deke Sharp, Harrison Cohn, and Remy Price, Christian Weissman, be able to mend the harm caused by Electra Forrester's Linnea Grace revelation that Remy is her previous stalker? Once Deke has all of the deplorable details, Remy will make a sincere plea, and Hope Deke can simply focus on who he is today. Nonetheless, Remy's dark backstory may be too much for Deacon to take, especially when Electra, Ivy Forrester, Ashley Brewer, and Will Spencer, Crew Morrow, suggest Deke let Remy go. Steffi Forrester, Jacqueline McInnes Wood, will check out the latest Hope for the future preparations and inform Hope that she is delighted with the new direction of her line. Steffi will be relieved that Liam and Hope were reunited, and Hope will appreciate Steffi's support. According to the Bold and the Beautiful spoilers, Steffi will continue to settle back into her role at Forrester Creations, so keep an eye out for any major career developments. Beth stood in the Forrester garden, the late afternoon sun piercing through the treetops and leaving crisp gold bars on the white runner that led to the flower-drenched arbor. She had arrived early, too early because she always did when she was apprehensive, and now her nerves felt like live wires under her skin. In her hand, she had a little velvet box hardly bigger than a matchbook. Inside was the one object that might undo all she had spent years trying to forgive, a platinum wedding band engraved with the words Forever, L&H, 2018. Liam's first marriage to Hope, the one that resulted in an annulment following Steffi's pregnancy announcement. Beth had never been told about this one. She discovered it 2 nights ago, stuck behind a loose panel in the cabin attic, when looking for extra string lights. The metal was chilly against her fingers, colder than the air, and the inscription gazed up at her accusingly. She had intended to throw it in the fire pit. She had intended to forget. Instead, she slid it into her pocket, then her purse, and last into this box, telling herself she simply wanted to watch Liam's reaction when he recognized it. Only once. Just to see whether he still felt the weight of that first vow like she did. As the visitors arrived, Forresters in fitted linen, Logan's in soft pastels, Beth's palms sweated so profusely that the velvet box threatened to slip from her grip. She held it against her thigh and forced her breathing to match the slow count her therapist had taught her, 4 in for hold and 4 out. It did not help. Nothing helped when the past could be physically held. Hope came at the far end of the aisle, dazzling in a tiered silk chiffon gown that reflected light like water. Liam waited beneath the arbor, hands clasped in front of him, eyes bright with optimism that had survived too many resurrections. Beth noticed her mother's big, trusting, unbreakable grin and felt the first crack in her own chest. She had promised herself she would be silent. She had agreed to let them have this day. But the ring burned hotter than the sun, and the words she'd been practicing in the mirror all night clawed their way up her throat. The officiant, A soft-spoken woman Brooke discovered through a spirituality podcast requested the audience to stand. Chairs are scraped. Perfume rose in waves. Beth's legs moved without permission, propelling her to the center of the aisle just as Hope approached Liam's side. 100 heads turned. Phones were lifted. Beth felt the collective breath, just before a wave broke. "Stop," she instructed. The word came out little, so she repeated it louder. "Stop the wedding." Hope's bouquet trembled. Lilies spill petals onto the runner, like snow. Liam's face wrinkled in uncertainty, then realization, as he spotted the package in Beth's palm. He recognized the shape since he had chosen it himself in a small jewelry shop in Paris 7 years prior. "Beth, honey," Hope said softly, going forward with one hand raised like if Beth were a startled horse. "Whatever it is, we can talk after." "No." Beth's voice shattered like thin ice. "We cannot. Not after this." She opened the box. The ring caught the light and reflected it back in a harsh gleam. Gasps spread forth. Someone, possibly Ridge, said, "What the hell?" Liam turned pale. "Where did you—" "Attic," Beth said before he could continue. "Behind the panel where you used to keep Christmas presents. You forgot one." Hope's gaze shifted from the ring to Liam to Beth, filling together a piece she'd never been allowed to view. "Is that from before?" she asked, her voice scarcely audible. Liam gulped. "Yes." "The first wedding," Beth said loudly, for the benefit of the back row. "The one that was deleted because Steffi was pregnant. The one no one believed I needed to know about because I was only a child." She laughed, making a sound like cracking glass. "But I'm not a kid anymore, and I found the proof you buried." Hope's fingers shot to her mouth. The bouquet dropped completely and hit the runner with a faint thud. Petals were scattered across Liam's sneakers. "Beth," Liam began, stepping down from the arbor. Arms extended. "I can explain." "You always can," she responded. "That is the problem. You explain, Hope forgives, and everyone pretends the math is still valid. But it doesn't." She grasped the ring with her thumb and fingers, tilting it so the engraving faced the audience. The cameras zoomed. "Forever, LNH 2018. That's what it says." Forever lasted 4 months. The guests murmured quietly. Brooke looked like she'd been punched in the stomach. Ridge's jaw moved softly. Steffi, seated in the second row alongside Finn, remained motionless, as if the past had just entered wearing her old face. Hope discovered her voice. "Beth, I knew about the first wedding, that I knew the ring existed. We discussed it years ago." Liam handed it back to the jeweler. "He told me everything." Beth dropped her arm. "He told you a story." "This is the evidence," she said, looking at Liam. "Did you hand it back? Or did you hide it because you weren't sure which forever you preferred?" Liam opened his mouth and closed it. The quiet was enough response. Hope's eyes swelled. "You kept it," she whispered to Liam, wonder and pain intertwined. "All this time." "I forgot," he replied faintly. "This was a hectic year. I feared I'd lost it." "You hoped you lost it," Beth corrected. "Because if it stayed lost, no one would ever have to admit that the first time wasn't a mistake. It was just inconvenient." Hope took one step back, then another, her gown's train catching on a chair leg. She didn't notice. She muttered, "I need air." Even though they were already outside. She turned and walked, not ran, down the aisle, past the astonished faces, Brooke reaching out, and the photographer who continued to shudder because that was what he was supposed to do. Liam started after her. Beth blocked him with her outstretched arm. "Let her go. You've given her enough second chances." He looked at Beth as if for the first time. "You planned this." "No," she said, astonished to discover it was true. "I intended to remain quiet. But the ring wouldn't allow me." She put the box on his palm. "Take it. Wear it. Throw it into the ocean. I don't care anymore. Just quit assuming the past is a manuscript that can be revised." Liam stared down at the ring, then along the empty aisle where Hope had vanished. The officiant cleared her throat, nervously. "Perhaps we should." "No," Ridge replied, standing. "We're done here." He stepped up and snatched the microphone from the officiant's lifeless hand. Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony is postponed indefinitely. Please enjoy the bar. He clicked the mic off with excessive force. The audience broke into overlapping chats. Phones glowed. Within minutes, #Logan Spencer Wedding Disaster began trending. Beth was alone in the midst of it all, the eye of a storm she had created with a single small bit of metal. Steffi approached, her gaze furrowed but not hostile. You just torched your mother's happiness in front of half of Los Angeles. I know, she responded. Her voice was calm now, and the wires under her skin were quiet. But it was already burning. I just opened the door, so everyone could see the fire. Steffi gave her a long look. You're more Forrester than you think. Beth nearly smiled. That's what I'm afraid of. Across the yard, Hope sat on a stone seat beneath a jacaranda tree, her gown pooling like spilled milk. Brooke hovered over Hope, murmuring comforting words that she did not hear. Brooke reflexively raised her arms in protection as Beth approached. It's okay, Mom, Beth said. I'll talk to her alone. Brooke paused, kissed Hope's temple, then went away, heels clicking in a retreat rhythm. Hope did not look up. I knew about the ring, she stated to the ground. I knew he kept everything. I thought if I loved him enough, the things wouldn't matter. Beth sat next to her. The bench was freezing. They always matter. That's what I learned, Hope said, lifting her head. Mascara had cut clean, black rivers down her cheeks. Do you hate him? No, Beth replied. I despise the story in which everyone gets hurt and calls it love. Hope laughed, a wet, broken sound. I was going to pledge forevermore. We said it exactly where we did the first time. I thought repeating it would make it more true. Beth reached for her mother's hand. The fingertips were icy. Perhaps everlasting is not a word. Maybe it's someone who doesn't need rings to remember. Hope turned and looked at her daughter intently. When did you become so wise? When I stopped attempting to correct your mistakes and began learning from them. They sat in silence as the sun dipped lower, turning the sky the color of bruised peaches. Behind them, the caterers began discreetly packing the chafing dishes. The string quartet packed their instruments without sounding a note. Cars drew away one by one, their headlights cutting through the dusk. Liam reappeared at the edge of the yard, still carrying the velvet box. He appeared small in comparison to the vastness of the garden, as if weighed down by his own history. He raised his hand, half waving, half pleading. Hope gave him a long glance before returning her attention to Beth. Tell him to go, she replied softly.
Beth stood.
She traveled the length of the runner, which was now littered with petals and unthrown rice. When she got to Liam, she didn't say anything. She easily removed the box from his unresisting hand, opened it, and put the ring upon her own thumb. It fit just right, like if it had been waiting for her all along. This belongs to the past, she replied. And the past will not marry my mother again, Liam said, his tears welling up. I'm sorry. I know, Beth said. Say it when she is ready to hear it, not before. She left him standing and headed to Hope. They watched as the last automobile disappeared down the drive. The garden lights turned on automatically, illuminating the wrecked aisle in a gentle, forgiving glow. Hope's head lay on Beth's shoulder. What happens now? Now, Beth said, we will stop changing the story and begin writing a new one. Hope closed her eyes. Will it be a happy ending? I don't know, Beth said, but it will be ours. Above them, the jacaranda dropped one more blossom onto the bench between them, purple against white, frail but intact. Beth scooped it up and placed it behind her mother's ear. Hope smiled, little and genuine, the first honest expression of the day. In the distance, caterers were loading the wedding cake into a vehicle. 7 layers of vanilla and raspberry, undisturbed. Beth watched it go and had no regrets. Some things weren't designed to be swallowed whole. She slid her hand into Hope's. They strolled back through the garden together, past the flowerless arbor and the chairs that had already been folded and stored. Their shadows extended long across the grass, 2 figures rather than 3, moving forward into a night that belonged only to them. Behind them, Beth's thumb ring reflected the moonlight, cold, dazzling, and eventually silent. Liam stood near the window, staring out at the endless ocean before him. The waves tumbled and broke, just like his heart had done numerous times. He had spent years trying to be the man Hope deserved and the father Beth needed, but the past always found its way back to him. Steffi, the memories, the confusion, it all knotted together like seaweed dragging him down. He could see Hope's reflection in the glass, her face pallid, and her eyes crimson with tears. He wanted to go to her and say something that would bridge the gap between them. However, words had become worthless currency in their marriage, spent too freely and never replaced. "Liam," Hope said softly, scarcely audible. "She's asking again." He turned, his face hollow. "About what?" "About why you and I no longer sleep in the same room." Her voice trembled as she spoke. Liam closed his eyes, remorse rushing over him like a wave. How could he explain to their daughter that love might slip away softly, without shouting or betrayal, just tiredness and pain? Beth was too young to understand how two people might love each other sincerely and still end up on opposing coasts. "I told her we're just giving each other space," Hope explained, attempting a faint grin. "But she is not foolish. She sees everything." Liam walked slowly across the room, his footfall echoing softly. "I'm sorry," he muttered. "I apologize for everything." Hope's shoulders trembled. "Sorry does not repair things. Sorry does not stop our daughter from crying at night because she believes her parents no longer love each other." He reached out to touch her, but she recoiled. The rejection affected him harder than he anticipated. Her touch had previously served as his anchor and savior. Now it served as a reminder of everything he had broken. Meanwhile, across town, Sheila Carter sat alone in her dim apartment, peering into the mirror. The woman that stared back at her was barely recognizable, the brightness in her eyes softened by years of lost wars and burned bridges. Her marriage to Deacon had been her last chance for redemption, a chance to prove she wasn't the monster everyone thought she was. But even this had crumbled. Deacon had left, unable to live with the shadow of her past, and she couldn't blame him. Loving her had always come at a cost, and everyone eventually recognized it was too much. She picked up the framed photo from the table, recalling a rare moment when she and Deacon had smiled without fear or pretense. "You said you believed in me," she whispered. "But nobody ever really does." Her phone rang. It was a message from her son, Finn. She glanced at it for quite some time before opening it. "Please do not come by the house anymore, Mom. It's too difficult for everyone." The words were kind, but their meaning was final. She turned the phone face down, her throat clenching. She was once again told that she did not belong. Once again, she was reminded that love, her deepest longing, was always just out of reach. Back at the cabin, Hope attempted to concentrate on preparing dinner, but every movement felt mechanical. Beth was upstairs painting, her crayons all over the floor. Liam had gone outside, claiming he needed air, but she understood what he truly meant. He'd find it back at the Cliff home, conversing with Steffi, the only person who could see him clearly even when Hope couldn't. And maybe that was the most painful part, knowing that the guy she loved would never cease seeking another woman's consolation. The knife slid in her palm and sliced her finger. A strong sting, followed by a drop of blood. She looked at it numbly. Pain seemed different now. Distant, subdued, almost pleasant. At the very least, it reassured her that she could still feel something. She put a tissue to the cut and allowed her mind drift back to the day she and Liam first welcomed Beth home, when they believed nothing could ever ruin their bliss. Life was simple then, full of promises and plans. But time had a way of unraveling even the most durable cloth, one thread at a time. That night, Liam did not arrive home until after midnight. Hope pretended to be sleeping, but she could hear the subtle creak of the door, tentative footsteps, and a sigh of guilt. When the bed dipped beside her, she caught her breath, waiting for him to say anything. But he did not. He merely lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, Two strangers in the same bed with the same regrets. The next morning, Beth refused to attend school. She held her teddy bear and claimed she was not feeling good. Hope knelt beside her, brushing her hair away from her face. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Beth's eyes were filled with tears. "Has Daddy stopped loving us?" Hope's chest clenched cruelly. "No, honey. Daddy loves us very much. We're trying to figure things out. But you cry when he leaves," Beth added softly. "And he looks sad when he comes home." Hope clutched her tightly, tears streaming down her daughter's cheeks. "Adults make errors, but it doesn't mean love dies. It's just—" Sheila strolled throughout town, engrossed in thought. She paused at the corner after passing Il Giardino, the restaurant where Deacon worked. She saw him smiling with customers through the window, and it was his easy charisma that had lured her in the first place. She wanted to go inside and tell him she still loved him and that she could be better, but her fear of rejection stopped her. She turned away, her heart hurting. Perhaps love was not meant for her. Perhaps redemption was simply another delusion she had pursued for too long. Later that day, fate brought their worlds together again. Sheila noticed Hope and Beth in the park, sitting on a bench as her kid played on the swings. Hope's face was pallid and her smile strained. Sheila hesitated and then approached cautiously.